Hello, Charlotte. How are you?
Hello, I'm very, very good. Thank you. How are you?
Yes, I am great. Thank you. I'm good. So, today I
Yes.
wanted to have a conversation about moving from living on autopilot to living consciously,
Yes.
and sort of in control of our lives. So, I'd love to have a chat about what that means, firstly,
Yeah.
and how we make that shift
Yeah.
and the things that we do to move from autopilot to living consciously, and then what that brings us and the benefits and the value, and why do that.
Yeah.
So I would love to start off by asking you if you can think back to when you were living on autopilot and not living consciously. I would love to ask you what were you feeling back then?
I think I was just feeling on a treadmill of life. Like, I would wake up straight into motherhood, like no time for me, straight into breakfast, straight into then, oh gosh, I've sat down for too long, I need to get my shower, straight into whatever it was that we were doing that day. I'd get to lunchtime and I'd be like, right, I might just be able to gain myself a little bit of time there. But then, like, the washing needs doing, or then the girls have finished their lunch, so I'm doing the clearing away the lunch. And anyway, we'd get to the end of the day, still not had that moment for me, and I'd be that exhausted from all that the day held that I'd just sit in front of the TV, zone out, go to bed, and the whole process would start again. And I think that was what autopilot looked for me, because I was in this cycle and I couldn't see my way out of the cycle because I didn't have time.
Okay.
And for me, time was the biggest excuse that I used for putting myself first, because I had no time. There was no time spare in my day to do that. And my biggest learning from getting into, conscious living and getting into the driving seat of my life is that I always have time if I make it. Like, and I think I always used to think, like, in terms of reading a book, for example. Like, I used to have this huge thing where, like, if I'm going to start a book, I've got to finish it by a certain time almost. Like, I'll admit, a pretty slow reader, and, like, I have to, like, absorb it, and, like, I am a really slow reader. But a couple of pages in 10 minutes, like, that is something. And I've just really built on those small things for me. And I've become to love reading. Would have never thought that back a few years ago, that I would enjoy reading again, but I really, really do. So, yeah, have I answered that there? Sorry, I went off on a bit of a woo.
Yeah, no, you totally have, and I'd love to ask a bit further on that, actually, because I feel that what you just said in terms of describing your autopilot, that a lot of our listeners will, or viewers will, completely relate to that sort of cycle of get up, no particular morning routine, do the morning jobs, do the daytime jobs, whether that is, as being at home with the kids, or whether you don't have children, you're going out to work, it's the 9 to 5, you come back, you have your dinner, you tidy, you do the washing, you do and you sit down, it's 10 o'clock at night, no time for yourself, bit of Netflix, to bed, up the following day, the same cycle repeats. So that's autopilot, and I think, as I say, a lot of viewers or listeners may heavily relate to that. So what I found really interesting is that you acknowledge that time was your excuse.
Yeah.
So I would like to dig further and find out. So, well, firstly, how did you become aware that you were making that excuse of time?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a very, very good question. And I think it was from taking that first step of action to speaking out on Instagram. So I was feeling really stuck and I didn't really have any direction. And I thought, do you know what? One day I woke up and enough was enough. And I thought, right, I'm going to start an Instagram. And kind of in my head, I just wanted to speak out to help others. And on that journey, I didn't realise how much that would help me too, because I'd made that decision to show up for myself as well as for others. And I'd gone from not having anything for me because it was all about the girls and it was about Dale, and I was, you know, obviously doing all the housework and all the chores whilst he was at work. And then, you know, I was in that cycle, and just having Instagram as an outlet, it sounds really like just to make a post, but it was a big thing back then. Well, it still is sometimes, like opening up on a post and putting it out into the world is huge. And I started to do that on an evening. So I would write something before that chilling out period. So I'd get into that cycle of, right, I'm going to, you know, kind of, I suppose, test myself to write something and to put my feelings into words. And I really had kind of gained a big love of words through that period as well, because I was like, it's really interesting to write out how you're feeling. And I suppose actually I was starting journaling way before I realised I was even journaling, but I was just putting it out into the world. So because I'd taken those action steps, like I was making the time for it. And I'd added that string to my bow without kind of overly thinking about it. And it wasn't probably until doing all of this inner work and really deep diving into self-development where I've really given myself the credit, because I still have the same amount of time in my day as a year ago, but how intentionally I'm using that time now, it looks so different, because I know what I want to do with my time. And I think that was the thing. Before, when I was using the excuse of time, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. So that was stopping me from being able to spend it more wisely. And I don't think we ask ourselves that enough, do we? Like, what makes us uniquely happy? Like, you know, we have all of these ideas of happiness and, you know, I'm going to go and see a friend and have a drink that evening, but what actually fills that cup?
Yeah, I love that. And I'd love to. There's a few things I'd like to touch on, if I may.
Yeah,
What I feel I'm hearing is you. Well, firstly, you said you made time.
Yeah,
you made the time, and I think that's an important thing here, isn't it? It's that time was your excuse to start, because you don't have the time, but then you stepped into choice. And you made a decision to make time. Yeah. And I think that's important in itself to...
Yeah, and just as you've just said that, like, I think before, when I was making an excuse of time, somehow in my head, adding anything else to my day just seemed exhausting. And it seemed undoable. And I think gaining that creative outlet, or that something for me, energised me more than made me extra tired. Like, actually sitting in front of the TV and being in that same space added to my unmotivated feelings and my tiredness and my exhaustion. Whereas actually having that something where I was getting creative, I was being more me, I found energy in it. And I think that's what I'd not realised before.
That's also wonderful, because you're, like you said, you're doing something for you. Yeah. And I think a lot of people relate to this, is that we do sometimes put ourselves at the bottom of the pile. We do put ourselves last sometimes, and make sure everybody else is looked after, everybody else is pleased, and we say yes to a lot of things, and then there's no room or time left for us. Yeah. But when we say give that up and start saying no, and give ourselves that permission and make that time for ourselves, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, to do something that brings us joy. Like you said, all of a sudden then your evenings, there was no extra time, but the energy was there because it brought you joy, and it was a pleasure. And it's like, well, actually, I'm all right. I'm good for Netflix tonight. Yeah. I'm going to create some content instead. And hand in hand with that, what I feel I'm also hearing is, it was just a small, and I don't mean just in a insignificant way, but it was a small step. It wasn't a huge thing that you had to do to start breaking down that autopilot cycle. It was a small step. It was starting to create on a daily basis or every other day, 5, 10, 15 minutes of an evening, and allow that to grow organically and naturally and build momentum. And like you said, allow the path to just unfold, like one small step at a time. Yeah.
My most favourite quote is walk on the way and the way will appear. And I embodied that like there's no tomorrow last year. And in terms of that, I kind of, when you were saying 5-10 minutes, like just this will be a whole other topic. But I was in that space in the beginning, and then all these self-doubts came in as well. So I had that other element where I was like, and then I was really getting into the nitty gritty. I was like, oh, is this okay? And that's the part of it, isn't it? Like, no. So it was simply that small step of starting an Instagram. It was that small step of putting that first post out there, taking that first picture and keeping walking on the way. And then these things appear that kind of, the doubts might flow in one day, and we speak about this a lot, don't we? But the patience that you need to have with yourself to kind of ride those waves, because things aren't simple. And, we all feel the same, I think, in terms of having these doubts or what on earth are we doing? But just the biggest flaw that we all make, and I made for years, was just not getting started. And I don't know, I find that so intriguing. Like, why don't we start? Why?
Because in one of our masterclasses, isn't it, on our 3-step process, and we dive really deep into why we don't start, why we don't take action, and we're waiting, aren't we? We're waiting for that perfect moment. Yeah. Well, it's not coming, guys.
No.
Sorry to break the news. Oh, the bearer of bad news. The perfect moment at the right time. Yeah. It's not coming. But I feel this is we know what we do here. We carry on talking, and this could definitely be another topic of conversation in terms of taking action, and why we don't take action, and how we can break that, and how we can take action. What I would really love to ask you now, if I may, so for anybody that's listening or watching that is feeling, oh man, you know what? I am living on autopilot. I am day in, day out. I am stuck. I am just feeling like there's more, but I don't know what it is. If we take ourselves right the way back, where it's just really a feeling. We don't have the self-awareness. We are certainly not living consciously, but we know something is just a bit like, is this it? Like, is it there's got to be, something's not right. What tool, like if we need to tap into that self-awareness, so to be able to make that shift from autopilot to living consciously and intentional and into the driving seat, we have to raise that level of self-awareness, because until we know what it is, it's difficult to do something about it. So what tool or tip or advice or would you give to starting to, how can we raise that self-awareness, I suppose, is what I'm asking.
Okay, so go out and treat yourself to a new notebook and a new pen and start journaling, because that, oh my goodness, another absolute life-changing thing that I added to my day. Because like I said, I didn't know how I wanted to spend that time. I knew I wanted something for me, but I didn't have a clue what it was, what it looked like. If people ask me what my goals were, I'd be like, absolutely have no idea. Like, I didn't know, look at even like a vision board back then. I'd be like, I don't know what I want on it. I was so lost in my day to day, and I wasn't allowing myself the time to figure that out. And I think journaling was an outlet for me to do that. And whether it's waking up every single morning and just saying, how am I today? And writing that answer. And I've said before, like, my conversations in my journal, literally, like, because it doesn't come naturally in the beginning, and you have to work through that. Like, I would literally sign on and be like, how are you today, Charlotte? I'd be like, I am absolutely fine, thank you. Well, are you really though? And I'd write this all out, and I'd be like, well, no, this little thing is bothering me, or this is bothering me, or I'm not happy about this, and you let yourself go a little bit deeper with each time that you try it. And so asking yourself how you are in your journal is huge, and just asking yourself what you want from your life. Like, So 2 questions in a journal. Treat yourself to a new book, because that was a lovely thing that I remember. I got one for Christmas, and I got a journal and 2 pens from my auntie for Christmas, and that kick-started my journal. And I still love that. Well, it's here, actually. Got it here.
Yes.
My
where it all
first ever
began.
one. Yeah, and I remember the pens that she got me, I ran out of the first. I don't think I've ever used a pen and used it up until it's like no more ink, and I was like, oh my goodness, I needed this. I've used all the ink, and that was in like a month or 2. It was madness.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so that's my tip. Treat yourself to a
Yeah.
new notebook and pen. Ask yourself 2 questions. How are you? And what do you want from your life? And keep asking them. I think even whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, keep checking in with those questions, because they'll change over time.
Thank you for that. And that is such a valuable piece of advice, and just a great tool to get started if you just don't know. And those 2 questions are so powerful, aren't they? And I think if you're struggling with the what do I want, we can flip that as well, can't we? Because I'm sure if we write down what don't I want, that's
Yes.
easy to write down. And then by identifying that, then you can start to think, well, I know what I don't want, so what is it I do want. So yeah, it's such a safe space, isn't it, to just get creative, to be curious, to explore.
Yeah.
It's your thoughts, and it's you talking to yourself, and
Yeah.
I love the way that you do that. And similarly, I put good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
And I like to put the time for some reason. And
love
I,
it.
how are you today? And it's I can say whatever I want on paper,
Yeah.
with no judgment. And honestly, I will start journaling, and I will start asking, how am I today? Or this is my intention for the day. And 6 pages later, I've just unearthed some deep, dark, limiting belief that I didn't even
With an
realise
achy
I
hand.
had. Yeah. So honestly, just allow yourself to go with it. And it is the best place to start to raise self-awareness, isn't it? Because you are checking in with yourself and figuring out what it is.
And one of our lovely members in the club actually reminded me of how in the beginning, the part of it not feeling natural is because you're literally in your head. It's almost safe because no one else can see it. And it's getting used to having that book like that's for nobody else. Like, it is just for you. You can put it wherever you want to put it. I remember being a bit like, oh, I don't know, would anyone read it? Or, you know, you kind of have those doubts. But, like, no, like, that space is for you. And when it's out of your head and in a journal, you're gaining clarity. Literally, just by asking yourself 1 question a day, you're gaining clarity, and you're moving through that feeling of stuck, that feeling of feeling lost. And I think the most wonderful part about it for me was I was doing that for me. And I was just being my own best friend in that process, because in a book, like, you're not as mean to yourself as you are in your head. And I think that was quite an awakening for me to be like, wow, I can be pretty tough on myself. And in words, it's harder to write that down because you're like, oh. And I would end every entry with 1 sentence that built me up. And that's built confidence and trust within myself like there's no tomorrow. Like, I know that I've got a little bit extra love for myself, which is quite crazy to say out loud, because, yeah, I wouldn't have said that a long time ago. Well, a couple of years ago.
Yeah. That's really powerful. That's really powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you. So, yeah, I think as a roundup then, if you're looking to, if you've got these feelings of I'm stuck, I'm frustrated, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know what it is. Yeah. Pen to paper, and ask yourself those 2 questions. If you can remind me those, Charlotte, how is it I'm feeling today?
How am I feeling today? And what do I want from my life?
Lovely.
Yeah. Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and we'd love to know, guys, if you do give that a go, let us know. And we'd love to help in any way that we can. So, yeah, ask us any questions. We're always here for you, aren't we?
Absolutely. And we pop we do pop journal prompts on our socials, so on our
Yes.
Instagram and our Facebook pages. We do pop some journal prompts on there, and obviously in the club we have our monthly journaling sessions, which are just fantastic.
Yes.
Such a great. That's an hour to
Yes.
to really go deep and really raise that self-awareness, which is huge. So,
And we're
thank you
we're thinking about obviously opening those up, aren't we? So
yes, of course. Sorry, that's great to
which
mention.
is really exciting. So if you make sure you're following us on Instagram. We're on quite a lot of spaces, aren't we? Instagram's
Yes.
probably our hub of information. So at the Authentic Girls Club, and also our website, which is www.theauthenticgirlsclub.com. And we'll be sharing information on that so soon.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Thank you. It was lovely to chat. Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.